Thank you, Lydia. We have one more speaker. Our next speaker is Chung. He's associate professor and programs leader at the School of Design in Hong Kong Polytechnic University. He's also an independent curator, installation artist, and a co-founder of the Community Museum Project. So he'll be introducing some of the works from the Community Museum Project. So please welcome Chung.
Thank you. I'm also the only Hong Kong taxpayer invited by M+ in this forum. So thank you, M+, for giving me these opportunities to learn from all these speakers, especially in the last workshops in the weekend. And I decided to change my presentation a little bit by adding the word generating visual culture. Now the new topic is stock taking, displaying, and generating visual culture. So visual in parentheses because we have to decide whether this is visual or not. Okay. So Community Museum Project is not a museum. We only run museum projects. We aspire to employ museum and art methodologies to explore and showcase indigenous creativity, visual culture, public culture, and to encourage cross-disciplinary knowledge, articulation, and participations. So this is our mission statement, so to speak. And we have 4 people: Howard Chen, Park Chai, Phoebe Wong, and myself. And unfortunately, Howard Chen passed away this March. So we are left with 3 people right now. But thanks to the workshop yesterday, and I came up with some thinking about M+. So I would briefly talk about my proposition here. So perhaps M+ could be a museum thinking about a collaborative and collecting and curatorial model. What I mean is we understand that a society has 3 sectors. The first sector, which is the public museums or the governmental sector. The second sector is the business corporate sector. And the third is the arts communities or NGO sectors. So yesterday, I proposed that maybe M+ could work with public museums collections in Hong Kong, like the Hong Kong Museum of Art, the Heritage Museum. And in fact, instead of acquiring their own collection, they could borrow or share their collection with borrow the collections from the other public museums and curate new shows about it. So this is one possible collaboration. The second collaboration will be with the corporate sector. And I propose that maybe we could acquire some real estate building model and collect them from Hong Kong estate developers and then make a show out of it. And I think that would be a valuable collections, especially in places like Hong Kong. And the third sector is working with the arts communities and the NGO sectors, which I will use one case that Community Museum did to illustrate or maybe provide it as a metaphorical example or reference for M+ to think about. So in the title, I have used the metaphor that street as a museum. So what I usually find streets very interesting is that there are a lot of things to see. It's already a museum to me, right? If we curate some of these spectacle, this could be a very interesting show for museums to work on. And to my case, I'm particularly interested in these trolley from the street. You see all these expression of these the owners to personalize their trolleys. And I'm sure you see this kind of trolley as well in the street. So how would we try to study this kind of culture or as a theme for community practice like this? Okay. So we come up with this project with the funding from District Council, researching on this kind of street craftsmen in Samshui Po in 2006. And we call these projects In Search of Marginalized Wisdom. So we identify 8 different craftsmen and then try to research and document some of the work process and the design. So you could see there are the rattan chair maker, flower plaque maker, bead maker, and I will focus on Mr. and Mrs. Lee, who are a couple who has been making those wooden trolley for 50 years. So what we did as a kind of art documentation project at the beginning is to what we call photo stock taking. So this is how we do it. We go to interview them and observe and take pictures of every step they use to create the wooden cart. Every tools, every parts, we documented. And interestingly, as we interview these craftsmen, they said all these material are recycled material from street cleaners, from the garage, and they just form a kind of informal economy by the street cleaner bringing all these discarded wooden plank to them, and they buy them, and they buy some of the used car parts, like the ball bearings from the garage, and then get the rubber tire, and then repurpose it into different parts and the wheel of the cart. And they even invent their own tools to bend the water pipe into the handle of the trolley. And this has been done as a trade for them for 50 years. We call it upcycling discarded material from the streets and transform it into usable cart and sell it back to the grassroots community. So they even have their own brand and then spray painted on the cart. So this is the final product. They even make their own tools out of used files, and it was said that the wheel uses those ball bearings from Mercedes. The rusty one is from China, and yeah, the upper top one was from the Mercedes. So what do we do with all the images that we collect? Then afterward, we create visual stories out of our documentations. And then we try to organize exhibition and make exhibition engagement. And then we make publication as well. So this is how we try to visualize some of the process in the exhibition of the different craft among the 8 craftsmen. And then we organize this exhibition on discarded estate site. And then we have all these different school workshop, demonstration, and all the panels with explanation of how this kind of craft was built up and has been transformed into a kind of trade for their livelihood. And we have forums, we have everything, as if we are running a real museum project. But we are not satisfied with only organizing the exhibition, but we also want to do some kind of experimental design with the craftsmen by building a cross-generational craft people and designers community. We invited designers to work with these craft people and analyzing some of the craft and process, and then proposing some new products using their own process and own crafts. And this is the first time Mr. Lee has made this kind of outrageous products to him for 50 years. And they're really proud. And later on, we introduce this table to other occasions like conferences, a local one and international conferences, using this table as a kind of like spreading out the news. And afterward, we had invited other architects and people to build different prototypes using their own crafts, like this. And this is another craftsman, like a metal craftsman working with other designers, building different craft products with metal. This is a pinhole camera developed by a designer with the craftsman. These are some product prototypes, new one. And then we published a book on this. And because of the book and some of the news that spread around, even a 5-star hotel commissioned Mr. and Mrs. Lee to build a cart, a buffet table for the hotel. So I think in a few years' time, their community started to form or extend a little bit bigger and bigger. And then I won't go over this conceptual model here, but later on we developed this kind of youth education workshop, inviting the designer, the craftsman, to work with the students on teaching them how to use this craft to build new products. So this is one of the examples that the student built. And for another craftsman, we introduced the craftsman into a school, and now they are building a miniature flower plaque like this, and they are thinking of maybe we could package it into a kind of souvenir for people for tourists. And, or maybe there is a future for this kind of heritage. So what we essentially try to do for CMP, Community Museum Project, is doing community partnership, cultural partnership, and educational partnerships. And we, of course, want to have business partners and government partners as well. But we are not very good at that. Maybe M+ could fill the part from the below and make a holistic picture of it. So finally, I come up with a kind of conceptual proposal on our approach for stock taking, displaying, and generating visual culture. We collect the uncollected. We call it cultural scavenging. We research artifact, people, and story, but we're using a kind of visual medium. We call it visual stock taking or capacity inventory. We display things in a manner that people understand some of the story and some of the process behind this invisible craft on the streets. We call it community visualization. It's not only the craft, you see also the community relation among all the stakeholders within the communities. And of course, we have exhibition and we want to audience to participate in exhibition, and designer and people all participate in making something new happens. And possibly we hope to effect some kind of social change, and we call it social curating. Thank you.